I'm Mel Stewart, and this is the SwimSwam podcast. Joining me today is a man that I love, a man that's laughing at me right now because this is my fifth time doing the intro. He's a two-time Olympic medalist. He's a gold medalist. He's swimming's #1 YouTuber. Of course, I'm talking about Cody Miller of Cody Miller Adventures. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man. Good to see you. Always a pleasure to see you and chat with you. Appreciate it very much.
Since you've been doing the vlog for 3 years now. Really you had that first year where you were kind of working through it, but really it's been 3 years, and it's sort of like eye popping. It's like if you're not on the Cody Miller Adventures train, you're not in swimming. You don't really know what's going on. It is must see TV and swim. You must be proud of that.
That's really high praise coming from you, man. You guys pump out some pretty great content as well. Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, it's been about 3 years, and it's evolved over time. And I'm really happy to see that it's having somewhat of a positive impact on the swimming world. I did my first swim clinic this past weekend with Josh Davis, and I hadn't done a swim clinic it'd been years, pre-COVID. And we had over 100 kids there, and I was overwhelmed with the gratitude that I got from these, middle schoolers and high schoolers for the videos that I've been making. And it's one thing to see comments in the comment section and that stuff, but it's another thing to feel that in person. So knowing that there are people out there that are getting some entertainment value, some, useful information, and some kind of, just positive impact on them from it. I mean, it makes me, I feel really good. So thanks for plugging that for me.
Well, I'm saying it, but internally, I'm really just jealous because before there was Cody Miller, before there was SwimSwam, I did this for years, and I would show up and do clinics, and kids would be like, "I love what you do; it's amazing." And then we started SwimSwam, and now I do things like manage finances and manage business partnerships. And you're doing great. But here's my experience: when I show up at swim meets, they call me Mr. Stewart. Kids call me, "Hi, Mr. Stewart. You're that guy with SwimSwam." But they look at Coleman and they're like, "Coleman, practicing pancakes."
Yeah, he's a celebrity.
But Coleman worships you. Like Coleman's like, "Did you see Cody today?" Coleman is getting his film school master's degree from Cody Miller Adventures University. Just a little FYI, just so you know that.
I didn't know that. I mean, obviously love Coleman, and I know that he's paid somewhat attention, but I didn't know that he thought that highly. I don't know if you're fluffing it up a little bit, but that makes me really happy.
I'm not blowing smoke. This is the real thing. And here's the thing. It's deserved. You've done it really well. And it's, here's the beauty of it. You don't just bring your film, your understanding of film and your love of film, and you have this dialogue and an ability to tell story, but it comes from a place that is I can tell you're striving to achieve mastery, and no one else has really done it in swim. You've got that, you've checked that box, you filled that bucket, and it's getting better. But also you're vulnerable. You've been very vulnerable. And I haven't talked to you since trials. So I get to have my trials moment with you. So tell me, unpack it for me. Tell me, what did the past trials mean for you? And what does it mean going forward?
I think that I've been fortunate to be able to rebound faster than a lot of people coming off of such a big disappointment. And part of that is having the right structures in place. I have other elements of my life that are obviously supersedes swimming now. But yeah, I, as I said very openly in a vlog that I made a few weeks after trials, I mean, it wasn't just that I had a disappointing meet and didn't qualify for the team, but I had, one of the worst meets that I had ever had, especially in the last decade. And that was obviously devastating. But on the flip side, when you reflect on any season, whether it's the Olympic season or not, you take things away that are positive, and then you try to analyze the things that were negative that ultimately created whatever the result was. And in the build up to trials, there were definitely things that were more difficult for me to overcome, and certainly negative aspects. Like, having a kid is the most amazing thing that has ever happened to me. But the timing of that was not ideal for peak physical performance, training, preparation, all that. And that's one variable. And there's a handful of other variables that were there that, on the warpath, leading into the competition, there's no value in really recognizing those things and consciously knowing. So you try to shield yourself from those things. But I mean, now that I've been through all that and had this horrible trials experience and talked very publicly about it, it's like, it's forced me to really assess what I want out of the sport, what I want out of my career, and what I want out of my life. And the bottom line is, like, I really still enjoy and love swimming. I do enjoy and love going to the pool and making these videos. And yeah, man, it's just, I still feel super, super lucky. And the one thing I'll say is, it's like, I've seen other Olympians that I've idolized for years go to these big meets like Olympic trials and blow up and break world records. But I've also seen people that I idolized for a long time go to these meets and fail on a grand scale. And very rarely do you get to see the inner workings of someone's mind in their lows. You always get to see them on the mountaintops. And so that's something that although it has been difficult to do, as it would be with anybody, I've tried to shed some light on some of those more difficult times. And that's why I made those types of videos. And that's why I try to talk about that, because, the audience is only going to engage in my content and watch my stuff if it's authentic and if they believe it. And I can't just, I don't want the stuff I make to look like just an Instagram filter where everything is always just, bright eyed and rosy. Cause that's just not the way things are. So, dude, you and I could probably talk like an hour long about trials and all that stuff, but, I've taken a lot of good away. I guess like, the biggest takeaway for anybody looking at like my failure of trials 2021, 2020, whatever you want to call it, is that it doesn't matter how old you are or how much experience you have, you're always vulnerable to making mistakes, and you're never perfect. And you have to look at yourself in the mirror honestly and take full responsibility. Like, I take responsibility for everything that happened at that meet. I know there are things that I could have controlled that I didn't, and there are things that were out of my control that just happened. And here we are, and everything is still fine, right? It's still, as much as we love swimming, we love the sport, it's still we're just swimming in a pool, and it should just be fun.
What's interesting for Cody Miller Adventures is that, it's all about connection. It's all about vulnerability and connection, but it's all about the fact that, more of your audience can identify with failure, because swimming is failure. Swimming is all failure.
All the time.
Even if you're talking to Michael Phelps is going to talk about, 90% of this is failure. But I feel like you brought it to everyone, and you just gave us the nitty gritty of it. And that's when the vlog sings. That's when it blows up. That's when it's like, that's must see. It's like, I got to see this. Wow. And you can't look away. So, thanks for that.
I appreciate it, man.
I said this one time before, we did a podcast before, and you came in and you spoke at an alumni get together, and we always had current athletes come in and speak to people who, the former Olympians, former world champions, and you came in, and I think it was ahead of a golden goggles, but you came in and you were sitting there. I had no idea what to expect. And I've been seeing this for years and years and years, going back to 2007. You stood up on top of your chair and addressed your older peers. And it was like, I was just like, whoa. I was like, this guy needs to be running for Senate. He needs to be running for office right now. He's got it. So you have that charisma, but it's the charisma with the vulnerability that makes it so wonderful.
I remember that we were in like a taco shop in LA before Golden Goggles. I remember that because that might have been the first time I'd ever really met you. And there were a handful of people in that room that I had not met before. Like that was the first time I ever spoke with Lenny Krazelberg. There were a bunch of people that I was like kind of starstruck by. And I was like, I got to take advantage of this moment. Like I got to like share the love, So I'm so happy that you remember that.
If you're ever invited to an alumni get together, you should do it, because you walk into a room and it's 100+ Olympic medals. And you and I both know, that, if you've got 2 medals, I got 3 medals, and it's like, you're standing in a room and people have 7 medals and 10 medals and 28 medals. And you're like, the pecking order is like, wait a minute, really low on this totem pole. But it's the funny thing is that the older you get, the less those medals matter. Someone told me that. I'm like,
yeah,
it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It comes back. Yeah.
I've really had that same feeling, especially coming out in this last year. I've like reflected back and I'm like, okay, to play devil's advocate, what if I'd made the Olympics again? Okay, great. Now I'm a 2-time Olympian. What if I had won more medals again? Okay, great. How would that affect my current living situation day to day? It honestly, like none. And I think, like you said, the older I get, the more that will probably become even truer. And so that has also helped me just kind of accept where I'm at in my career, kind of the twilight years of my career. I mean, I'm still planning on racing another 4 or 5 years, and I think I can be at a pretty high level for a while. But you're right. It's when you meet those people that have these ridiculous resumes, and at first you have that kind of starstruck moment, and then you talk to them and you're like, man, we're all just people. We're all just the same thing. And I try to address kids like at that clinic I did this past weekend. The one thing I try to say is the first Olympic gold medal I ever held was Josh Davis's. He came to a swim clinic at the Sandpipers in Nevada when I was 11 years old, and I held his medal, and I was like, man, this is so cool. Like, this is my dream. And now I'm on the flip side of that, and I'm doing that. And I always tell kids, I'm like, this could be you, because I've been in your position. And it's just that it's cool. I'm so happy you remember those things, man.
Well, how has the vlog changed you? How's it evolved, and how's it changed you negatively or positively? I think you might have hinted on it before, but unpack that for me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, where to start? I'm definitely not the same person I was in 2017 when I made my very first video as I am now. Just growth, life experiences, all those types of things. It's given me a greater appreciation for the sport. And that sounds really cheesy, but there are days when I wake up and I don't want to go to the pool, and there are days when I'm grumpy. And any given week, I determine a day. Like I schedule out in advance. I'm like, okay, Wednesday this week is the day I'm going to shoot this video. If I wake up on Wednesday and I'm grumpy or pissed off or something's going on, I have to shelf it and turn on that I have to be the guy for the camera. And over the years, I have created, or I have kind of honed in on this ability to really sideline other things that are going on that may be negatively impacting me, because I have to be that guy on camera. And it's like the phrase fake it till you make it, I've realized is really, really true, because you might wake up in a grumpy mood for whatever reason, but if you force yourself to look past that, and for me, just put a smile on and go to the pool. Like that's what I do. I put a smile on, I go to the pool, and I film stuff. And forcing myself to do so, I've been able to look at situations in my life differently. And I've really realized that, my mindset and my feelings are something that is really primarily dictated by myself. I mean, obviously you're influenced by your environment and your peers, but ultimately everything is dictated by how you perceive things. I hope I'm making sense. Like, I don't know if that makes any kind of sense, but, I'm able to now look at my life through a different lens because of a skill set that I've developed that I never really expected to develop, right? Like creating this vlog, I was like, okay, I'll probably get better at shooting things, editing things. I've developed a better relationship with the camera, but I didn't think that I was going to develop things that would help me outside of the world of creating swimming videos. And it's kind of crazy. Like it's hard for me to put into words. So I don't know if that makes any kind of sense.
Well, no, it forces you to look at the micro, and it forces you into that personality let me break it down this way. This is what I'm hearing from you. It's you have to be that guy when you show up and you capture and you designate that one day. But the truth is, everybody that swims has that day where they have to show up. And even though they don't feel it and they're grumpy and they're tired, maybe they're broken down, they have to show up too.
Yeah.
And when you're bringing the unit, when you're bringing the kit, it's magnified. I like that. But also I think that when you're detailing your life and detailing your journey, your adventure, there's a lot of self-reflection. It is in a sense, you are doing you're doing your time in the therapist chair. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's definitely forced me to do more self-reflection than normal, because like I'm literally analyzing bits and pieces of my life, right? And like I said, even on days when I'm not creating a video or filming something, I am more prone to recognizing what's going on, like how to control my mindset, how to control my mood, and more importantly, how I'm affecting others. Because when I'm filming, I'm always trying to positively affect others, regardless of how I'm feeling. And then when I'm not, I'm able to do that even better. Right? I'm able to continue to positively impact people, even when I'm not filming.
No, but as a filmmaker, you're always reviewing.
That's
what I was saying. You're
Yeah.
talking and I'm doing these crazy things with my fingers while you're trying to, but you're always reviewing.
Yeah.
You're creating all these other neural pathways in your head, which is about reviewing your life and what it is. Because I'm sure on the days off when you're not capturing your vlog, you're thinking, this is a really interesting insight. Swimmers would probably appreciate that. This is how I would do it. You might be in the middle of a set, middle of the pool, your heart rate's 150 and you're thinking, well, I could do it this way. And this is how I'll break it down. This is happening in your head.
Yeah.
Does that happen?
It's extremely analytical. Oh, it happens all the time. I get like ideas and new thoughts, and that's part of the fun part, because we as swimmers and just as people in general are very, we're very scheduled and routine, and we do kind of the same stuff all the time. So for me as a creator, how do I do this in a new, interesting way that doesn't become stale or boring? And anyway, yeah, super, super analytical. Yeah, you're very right.
Well, I was a Speedo athlete, and I think that's like being a Speedo athlete is like it was a cool thing. It's like you go to the Olympics, you become an Olympian, but then you become a Speedo athlete, and it's a cool alumni, and it's a cool family to be a part of. Your team Speedo, and the fact that Speedo has partnered with you is like, I'm like, this is the smartest thing in the world. Because I see swimming in two buckets now. I used to see it just as performance, just as achievement. And hey, these are my friends and this is my family. But in terms of things that matter and stand the test of time, I have two buckets now. I have, there's Michael Phelps, and he has 28 medals. And I'm sure you see this, but I see this. I see a whole generation of kids who show up, and they're not going to be great in breaststroke or butterfly. They're going to be great in 10 events. And it's like, they're okay. And they're fine with achieving mastery across a wide range of events at a high level that for us is mind boggling. But now there's another bucket, and the other bucket is swim media. And I think that you are creating a whole generation. So Phelps created this whole generation of kids who are not afraid of going after huge schedules. I think that you are creating a generation of kids that are going to be little Cody Millers. And I see it everywhere. Really? And so kudos to Speedo and kudos to you. But so here's a question. As you know, are you seeing little Cody Millers popping up right and left?
Well, I'm definitely not going to call them little Cody Millers, because I do not need to blow up my ego. But yeah, I don't want to keep talking about this clinic I just did, but there were probably 5 different little groups of kids that all came up to me at the autograph table, and they're like, we started our own vlog because of you. We watch you every week. And that's like a different level of appreciation that I can't really quantify. It's one thing for someone to come and say, hey, like, I love watching you swim. It's another thing when they come up and say, hey, like, you've affected my life and now I'm doing something within the sport. And that is like, just the great. It's the highest accolade, like the highest compliment that I could get, and I do really love that. I agree with you. Your whole sentiment about swimming media. I think that's what we need as a sport to grow. I think that's what we need as a sport to stay relevant and to inspire, the youth, and to have just a small impact on that for me is rewarding within itself for sure.
I want to press pause on that topic right there, and we'll come back to it. But I do have to emphasize this: the fact that Speedo made this partnership with you makes absolute sense. I like them because you typically, when you have a partnership with Speedo, and I've seen this over the years, it's your career will end and you still work with Speedo. You're still under contract. You're with them for a long time. Typically, when someone signs a Speedo, you're with them for life. So I like their loyalty and their sense of family, but it's I was very happy when I saw that you had signed on. So what is your make waves moment?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah. But I had to put you on the spot, but I want to see if you're a good team player.
Oh, of course.
Team Speedo now. What's your make waves moment?
Okay. Well, it's wild. This is not, man, I could think of quite a few, but the one that blows my mind is like, obviously I grew up watching all these big time Speedo athletes like Cullen Jones, and I'm swimming in ISL right now. And Cullen he's not only a coach for my team, but like he's a Speedo guy that works for Speedo. And I've seen his evolution from being a professional athlete sponsored by Speedo to now being, a father who runs his own brand, his own business, but who works with Speedo. And he's like this icon that I look up to. And I'm like hanging out with him like he's a peer of mine. And he's texting me. It's wild. It is wild. And there was a moment where I walked on deck in Italy for the ISL meet, and Colin looked at me. He's like, "You look good, man. You look great today." And I was like, "You look great today." And that to me was just like everything. It was just like, it was passion. It was energy. It was a dream come true for a 10-year-old Cody Miller. I mean, it was everything. It's little moments like that. I mean, that's making waves when you're living it and you're also still achieving that 10-year-old dream. You know what I mean? I get excited about that.
That I think you weren't prepared for that. I sent you some talking points before we press record, and obviously you didn't read them. Maybe you were busy being a dad, but I think that I think you recovered. I don't know that I could ask that question across 10 people and they wouldn't get it right. That is a make waves moment that I wouldn't have answered that well. But it does crystallize everything. It crystallizes the cohesiveness of swim and all of the family circles. And I like that a lot. So let's stay on the Speedo topic just for one more moment. Do you have what's your Speedo gear? What's your kit? What's your go-to? What's something that you really love?
Well, I think they're called the power paddles. That's like my go-to. I actually made like a whole video about that not too long ago about, kind of like a what's inside my gear bag kind of thing. And those paddles, if I could choose one piece of equipment to take with me anywhere, it would be those. Also, not swimming equipment, but like this hoodie that I'm wearing right now and I'm not just promoting Speedo because I'm a Speedo. It's like the nicest thing I've ever worn. I wear them all the time. I got Allie one and she's been wearing it to school. And a bunch of her teachers are like, "That's a really nice sweatshirt." And so now I'm like, well, now I got to get all these people Speedo sweatshirts because everybody loves them. So yeah, I mean, definitely those power paddles. The Hyper Elite goggles are like the greatest goggles I've ever worn. One of my favorite things to do is to give those things away because number one, kids get excited. But number two, I always wanted a pair of Olympians goggles. And, it's just the best, dude. It's the best. Yeah.
So the sweatshirt thing is a thing. My
big.
wife, I'm an old man, married many years, full grown daughter. They take my sweatshirts. Yeah. They always take the sweatshirts.
I'm surprised.
They're massive. And, on an afternoon in Austin, Texas, where we're hanging out in the fall, they're wearing this Speedo sweatshirt that looks like a massive comforter, but they love it. So yeah, that's the thing. So protect your sweatshirt, bud. Keep one for yourself. Don't let it go. Don't let them take it. You gotta, it is the thing.
It's the best, man.
The I keep seeing kids on this could bring it back to Cody Miller Adventures. I keep seeing kids in there and they're using kits to capture themselves in swimming. I see it mostly on Instagram. See some of it on YouTube, and they're they're doing Cody Miller edits. They're doing Cody Miller. I'm like, I saw that on Cody Miller Adventures, and they're 12.
There's there's two things that I do all the time. One is I like to do running jumps with the GoPro, like holding it out, because I think it looks really cool. And the other thing is I really like time lapses. I like time lapses of the pool because I think it looks cool. I think it's effective in showing obviously time passing, but it's good for transitions. And I've seen a good number of people starting to use way more of those. I mean, those are like two staples for the videos that I make. I love the jumping in shots, the smiling, jumping into the water, all that stuff. And yeah, I guess like when 12-year-olds are doing like emulating you, like you're doing something right, right? That's a good sign.
No, it is a good sign. So so I start to feel like possessive because I'm not a materialistic person, but there's things that I love, I want in my life, and it's usually it's the intangibles, like your vlog. I want this to be a part of my life, and I want to know, what's it going to be like? Is this going to be is this going to be Game of Thrones, where it just keeps, it's like I'm going to have season after season after season, and I'm going to keep loving it, or is this going to be is it going to be Ted Lasso, where the first season's amazing and then it starts to peter out? So
you didn't like season 2?
I'm not down with season 2.
Okay.
So let's stop Ted Lasso analogy. Have you seen Dune?
Oh, have I seen Dune? It was a masterpiece. I loved it. I went and saw it in IMAX the night it came out, and my mind was so blown. I mean, the cinematography, the shot composition, I think it might be the most well scored movie I've ever seen. Not saying I would listen to the score, but just the whole movie, it flew by, and you're in constant tension. You're constant. I don't want to derail this podcast, but I loved it. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing.
I got a wonderful wife and family, so my wife booked tickets at the Alamo Draft House. If you guys know what the Alamo Draft House is, and it's sort of a thing in Austin and Los Angeles and Denver. But you go and you have a massive meal, and so yeah, I saw it in the theater. I wasn't watching this. I wasn't gonna watch this on TV.
No,
it was gorgeous composition of frame, the score. This is a space opera the way it's done. A lot of money. You're getting a whole lot of investment for your movie ticket dollars. It's a lot of entertainment.
You could feel it.
Yeah, but
and when it ended, I was just like, no, I need more. Keep going.
Critics are hammering it.
Yeah, dude. Are they really? They're hammering it? I thought it had like an 80%.
Chalamet, Timothy Chalamet, they don't like Timothy Chalamet. I like Timothy Chalamet a lot.
I thought he was great. I thought he was, one of the standouts of the movie. I mean, yeah. You could feel, there are movies that you watch and then you read like something in an article that says this movie cost $200 million to make. And you're like, really? But you watch Dune and you see where every cent of that movie went. You can see it. You can see the hundreds of millions of dollars and the passion, like the years of articulating how we're going to perfectly craft this narrative in a beautiful way. Coming back to that, that analytical mindset, right? Love it. I love it.
It's I figured you had. Just had to check in with you. So let's get back to the vlog. Okay. This is what I want to ask you.
Okay.
So how is it going to evolve? And really, it's a two-parter question because I don't want to overload you, but like if I talk to Tom Shields is like, Mel, I don't care about the Olympics. I can make an Olympic team, but I really like being a pro swimmer. I could do ISL, I could do World Cup, and I'm fine. And I'll do that for a while. Where are you in that bucket, and how is that going to impact Cody Miller Adventures?
That's a great question. No one has ever asked me that before, so kudos. Obviously, being a professional swimmer is a part of the DNA of what my video series is, and fortunately, I have no desire to stop swimming, being a professional swimmer. So for the years to come, I definitely plan on continuing to compete at the meets that that I want to compete at, or that I get to compete at. And I plan on continuing. I have some other ideas of some other things to do. And right now I'm just kind of building a foundation and kind of honing my skills. But I kind of see this as just the beginning, which is like super exciting. Not to be like too teasing of anybody out there, but yeah, there's a lot of great stuff around the corner. It's just a matter of timing and, how much longer I'm going to really keep training and competitively working towards, swimming certain meets. But similar to what you said about Tom, I can like hear his his voice right now. I love Tom. He's one of my favorite people to have conversations with. But, just the idea of being a real professional swimmer and going to all these meets, swimming short course meters meets and trying to win prize money and just kind of living that lifestyle. The fact that that's an option is a beautiful thing that I want to be a part of. I love it.
Okay, so let me pin you down. It's if I talk to Tom, Tom's like, he wants to make the Olympic team or world championship team. He goes, but no, it is a higher priority for him to perform at ISL and World Cup
For sure.
And he's like, if I have these other things, great, but I'm defining my life by the circuits. Is that do you fall in that bucket, or are you still like, no, I'm going for these peak moments at world champs in the Olympic Games?
Yeah, I'm still like, I'm not exactly entirely sure. And what I mean by that is, we've got 3 years to the next Olympic trials. And right now I'm just kind of like, like I'm going to compete and race at that meet, but I don't know how much of my heart and soul I'm going to pour into just the training aspect of that, opposed to trying to do well at, in an ISL season. So as far as like what would be defining of your career right now, I think it's more so on the media side. It's more so on creating lasting content that is fulfilling me and ultimately making a bigger impact on other people. Right. Because if I go swim really fast and set another American record, I get a couple SwimSwam reps, I get a big hug from my coach, and it's like, okay, cool. But I've already eclipsed Everest. Like I've already won that Olympic gold medal. So it's not like I'm doing anything that is greater than or anything that is going to, I guess, make me look at my swimming career with any grander lens. Now it's a matter of, okay, how am I continuing this lifestyle that I love, but getting more out of it in a different way? And the way I'm doing that is sharing parts of the story of the professional swimmer through the lens of a YouTube video. And I think the better I get at that, the more proud I will be of my impact right now. I don't know if that accurately answers your question, but that's kind of the way I view it. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to throw in 6 to 8 months of training, 10 swim workouts a week, weights, like the 40-hour swimming work week just to try and go a peak performance best time at Olympic trials, when I think there's a broader spectrum to the sport out there that I think that we're like trying to unlock. You know what I mean?
I think you answered the question.
Okay.
I think if we're following the vlog and we're following your journey, that's making sense to me. It's so at a certain point it does end. And at a certain point, you do have to evolve, really evolve.
Yeah.
You can go in a lot of different directions.
Well,
I asked Braden about this. I'm like, hey, Braden's like, ask him about that.
Yeah, for sure. So something that I certainly will do to some extent, there will always be just a vlog like right now where I'm training, I'm preparing for somewhat of a competition, and and people can follow along with that. And I can transition out of being this guy who's like trying to break an American record to this guy who's, okay, now he's going to a Masters championship meet and he's going to swim the 200 free, and he hasn't done this in 10 years. What am I going to go? Like, how fast can I go in a 200 free at 34 years old at a Masters championship meet? I think that that's something that for me is exciting, new, and fun. And I think that the audience out there is going to enjoy watching that just as much. I would hope, but we'll find out, So like you said, there are a lot of routes to go, but I mean, I want to continue racing, whatever that means, trying to qualify for worlds, or, hey, I'm going to go to this summer Masters meet in California, and we're going to do 100 backstroke. We're going to see what happens, something like that. Like this is totally unrelated, but I remember watching Cullen do a 100-yard breaststroke at a small meet once. And I was like, wow, this is like, it got me more excited to see someone who traditionally doesn't do breaststroke do something that is outside their wheelhouse. and eventually I'm going to do that. I have this really cool idea of training for like an open water meet and doing like a daily vlog where I vlog every day and I'm like training for an open water competition. I'll go out, I'll swim with sandpipers. I've got a lot of wild ideas. That's one of them because I do want to do an open water race. And I think that would be really fun to watch, have people just watch me, quite frankly, just suffer through the misery of really being an open water swimmer training for a 10K. You know what I mean?
I think that's two things. I wish that I'd never left the pool, because I left the pool and like didn't take a bath or a shower for a long period of time, embarrassingly. But like I left competition, and I wish I'd never left. I wish I'd always stayed connected and done a master's meet, shown up and done 100 breaststroke, shown up and done. And what I'm hearing from you is that, yeah, that's a part of your narrative.
Yeah.
That's the first thought, just listening to you now. My second thought is this. I watched YouTubers for years. I unplugged from TV about 6 years ago, and I've consumed everything on demand, but I watch YouTube more and more and more and more. And I've always thought, okay, we got friends. I have friends. I have an entertainment background. So I have friends who started with series on YouTube that jumped to television. But now I'm looking at it going, I don't know that you want to jump to TV. Why would you want to jump to a television series on some network where they take your business and they take a chunk of it? It doesn't make sense. I feel like we're evolving into an era of entertainment where Cody Miller Adventures just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and your subscription rate gets higher and higher and higher. And, I see you with 1 million subscribers and you're your own show.
I try not to think about it that way in terms of subscribers and all that stuff. I don't really look at it that way. I just see it as, am I getting better at what I'm doing, and am I enjoying what I'm doing? And I think about potential avenues for new vlog series, new shows, new narratives and whatnot. But yeah, I try to avoid all the the how many followers you have. That's not, no, I don't think that's healthy to look at things like that.
I don't think it's healthy either, but it's in terms of, I don't think that I've never felt like we've had the possibility of something where someone really is their own show.
Right.
And it makes
sense. Well, that's exactly what you see on YouTube now, because there's a lot of genres of television that have moved away from network TV and now live on YouTube because you don't need the middleman. And for something like what I do, you really don't need the middleman. There's a lot of food shows that used to be on the Travel Channel that would follow someone around, traveling to different places, eating different types of foods, critiquing those types of foods. Now that barely exists on Travel Channel. Now you see that all over YouTube, and you see a great number of people creating content that is equal to or greater than what you used to see on network television.
And the reason why people are doing that, if you guys are listening out there, it's really just a business model. Because if you're being distributed by a large company, they take a chunk of your bottom line, and there's just no reason to do it. You can be creative, you can be with your own team, or you can be a one-man show, and it makes a lot more sense. But my point to you was, wow, you're doing it, and you're reaching a threshold, a stratosphere where it's like, this could be a show that just goes. So I think that you're like the Anthony Bourdain of swimming. You've got your own narrative, and it's just going to keep evolving.
That's pretty great. Thanks, man. That's like a really high praise. But to some degree, it would be cool to travel to different teams and train with a different team and do a specific, whatever the flavor of the week is, a specific set that, only the Florida Gators do, or only name a team, whatever that team does, and to like do it and kind of share that knowledge and experience. That's an exciting thing. That is very much a Bourdain type of experience. I love that, man.
Or showing up and doing, 100 backstroke at Masters.
Yeah. Now we're talking. See, now we're talking.
Or open water. It's all there. It's everything falls under Cody Miller Adventures, which is what I love. So let me bring it back just as you're in the middle of ISL. We're in the middle of being a pro, and there's been all sorts of conversations in the background. It's like, will this continue? Is it going to make it? And there's a lot of people are calling out ISL because payments have been slow. It's I have my personal opinions because I've watched this very closely. what's it like on the inside being an athlete and with these financial questions up in the air? Have a drink.
Yeah.
How do you
So
answer
no,
this?
you're right. I mean, this is I'm very much on the inside. Like I'm a member of the Swimmers Alliance, which is effectively this pro swimmers union. I'm in all of the email threads and the WhatsApp threads, all the methods of communication from, I mean, every major athlete that is a part of that, and from the outside looking in, it kind of looked like, and I have not read the articles that were written. I've seen some headlines and people talking about it, that it's out there, but I think personally, having no understanding of how the true financials operate, because unless you're inside the inner circle, you don't really know. We are all just speculating. Like that should be very clear and very well understood. But from everything that I've heard from people that work within the organization, people who work under the organization, like the coaches, it sounds like we're guaranteed at least one more season. And so they're pretty confident that that's going to happen. So that's question number one, right? Is this going to continue? I'm pretty certain it's going to continue for at least another year. I think we've got that down. And then the second thing is the disarray about the late payments and the finances. There have been a lot of reports about companies that have been contracted to do a job that haven't been paid. I just don't know. And I don't think anybody really knows what has happened unless you're like hardcore researching all this, which I don't think anybody like really is. So the one thing that I do know about, the one thing that I do know about is, the athletes getting paid, and there were extreme delayed payments. I mean, people were getting paid a year beyond when they were basically promised to get paid. And that's a problem. And so naturally, as any union of any organization came together and had discussions, it's like, okay, what do we do about getting paid? Because this is a problem. And what are our options? I saw a headline that said that there was discussion of a strike. Obviously, in any circumstance, when there's something like this, that is an option. But to say that people within the league or swimmers within this alliance were actively considering a strike is a far cry. I mean, that's just everyone understands that a strike right now for the ISL would be stupid because it wouldn't help it would not help the sport. It would not move the sport forward. And we all understand that. So I think Tom in one of our threads said one of the only options we have is a nuke, which he's referring to a strike. And he's like, and we don't want to detonate this nuke because it helps no one. It's going to, so that's kind of that narrative out there. Quite a few people have asked me about. That's kind of silly. You know what I mean? But as someone that's a part of this league, we're all just kind of rolling with the punches and understanding that there are some growing pains and they're trying to work things out, and hopefully it gets better. But from what I have heard, I think everybody has been, at least the athletes have been paid out almost fully. So they're remedying some of those late payments. Now, I'm not going to make any excuses. That kind of thing is unacceptable for a league that is supposed to be professional. But look at how I would counter some of those things by saying, like, look at how much better the athlete relationship with FINA is now opposed to 2 years ago. Look at what they're doing with their league. Look at what they're doing with prize money. Like, we are moving the needle forward. Is it strong enough? Probably not. It's never enough. Like, we want more. But you have to look at the circumstances and compare them to just a couple of years ago. Like, have we made progress? Yes. Are athletes better off now than they were before? Yes. Are we there yet? Absolutely not. But it is an exciting time, and it is certainly very, very interesting. And I'm glad that a lot of people want to follow this. Like, I'm glad that people are reporting on this and are discussing it, because obviously that creates intrigue and that keeps people engaged. So I'm sure you're probably following those details a lot closer. I know athletes that were pissed that they hadn't been paid for like 6 or 7 months, but now those athletes have been paid. So we will see. That's it.
I'm on the phone with both Constantines, the CEO and Grigoryan, and I like them. I like what they're doing. I still see this as a startup.
Yeah.
And I know that for a professional league to be successful, it's going to take years and years and years. But I knew that this was one sticking point. And I also knew that you were on these group texts. Mm-hmm. And I had a feeling that you might add some clarity to it. And I think you did in that answer, and I appreciate it. What's going on with you? What's going on in your life? What's happening in the near future and into next spring? Give us a preview.
Well, I mean, I've got a baby coming. Allie's due in February, so we're gonna have a second kid, which is pretty wild to think about. We're just growing our family, man. Obviously, I'm leaving in a few weeks to go to the next, the next leg of this ISL league, which is exciting. And yeah, I'm just not looking too far ahead, just kind of try to take it day by day. But having one kid has been pretty wild, so I can only imagine what having this next one's going to be like.
Did anyone ever pull you aside and say, "Hey, Cody, what's up, buddy?" So when you have a kid, your sleep, it's 50%. It's half. So what you're sleeping right now, when the kid shows up after that, you're going to live on half of that. Did anyone pull you aside and say that to you?
A lot of people did. And I like just tried to block it out because there's nothing you could do. That's one of those things that's like outside of your control. Like you do your very best to take care of the baby so that the baby sleeps well. But at the end of the day, there's not a whole lot of controlling it. And it was rough, man. It was rough. And I know that like the 8 weeks leading into US trials for long course worlds next year is when I'm going to have a fresh baby in my house. So I have already like understood that my training and preparation for this meet is less than ideal. And that's just where I'm at in my career. And that's okay. You know what I mean? So we just make do with what we have and kind of just do my best. Fortunately, Axe sleeps great now. I mean, he sleeps 10 hours a night now, but it wasn't until he was 7 or 8 months that we were really hit that big milestone that every parent wants, All
right, buddy. I want you to come back on the pod. You need to come up with topics and be like, I want to talk about this. If you want to come back and just talk about movies, I'll do that too.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I come back anytime.
All right. Do you have any parting thoughts before we shut down?
I mean, my parting thought is always the same. I think people just need to be nice to each other. Try to stay off social media a little bit, avoid comments because it's generally not healthy to read too much, especially about yourself, and just be nice to each other. There's a lot of crap going on in the world right now. And I honestly think that we have way more in common with each other than people realize. It's just polarized by a lot of algorithms and a lot of inhuman communication. Like I see all the communication online as being less than forms of communication because you're missing all the social cues that you typically get with a face-to-face conversation like the one that we're having right now. So just try to be nice to people. That's all. That's it.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.